Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into what may be the most explosive and shocking internal crisis Russia has faced since the fall of the Soviet Union. What started as whispers behind closed doors inside the Kremlin has turned into a storm so powerful that even Vladimir Putin himself is being forced to react. Reports from multiple insiders suggest that Putin has left the Kremlin in a hurry as tensions among Russian elites reach a breaking point. The target of this fury appears to be Sergei Shoigu, Russia's defense minister, and some sources claim that high-ranking figures within Russia's own leadership may have attempted to eliminate him. This is not ordinary political disagreement. This is the early stage of a potential civil conflict inside the highest levels of Russian power, and the consequences could reshape everything about the war, Russia's stability, and the future of the Kremlin. For years, Putin managed to project the image of an unshakable leader, someone who controlled every corner of the Russian state. But today, that image is cracking at its core. The pressure from battlefield failures, economic collapse, and elite rivalries has begun to tear the system from the inside. The Kremlin has always operated through fear, loyalty, and money, but now all three pillars are collapsing. As Ukraine continues to advance in some areas and Russia struggles to maintain its military discipline, the blame game has intensified. Shoigu, long criticized for corruption and incompetence, has become the prime target. Angry nationalist factions, military hardliners, and oligarchs frustrated with sanctions all seem to be converging on one idea: the belief that Shoigu must go, and that eliminating him by force might be the fastest way to make that happen. The shocking part is not just that Shoigu was targeted, but that Putin reportedly panicked. According to several analyses, he left his usual Kremlin residence and shifted to a more secure location. In a system where loyalty is everything, a leader who runs is a leader who feels genuinely threatened. Putin has long considered Shoigu one of his closest allies, but protecting him is becoming dangerously expensive. Every attempt to defend Shoigu deepens the anger of military commanders who blame him for disastrous decisions, wasted resources, and strategic failures. Some insiders even believe that Putin's protection of Shoigu is pushing rival groups to consider actions not only against Shoigu, but potentially against Putin himself. When a power structure becomes unstable at the top, every ambitious figure begins to imagine a future where they take control. Rumors about a civil breakdown inside the Kremlin have been circulating for months, but now they are becoming impossible to ignore. Commanders returning from the front are furious at losses they consider avoidable. Oligarchs who once supported Putin silently count their billions disappearing under sanctions. Security agencies that used to cooperate now compete with each other for influence and survival. Each faction blames a different group for Russia's failures, and that makes the environment even more dangerous. The Federal Security Service is said to be monitoring both the military and political elites. Meanwhile, some Wagner-linked figures still influence discussions despite their weakened position. When so many powerful individuals no longer trust each other, violence becomes a real possibility. Shoigu's situation is particularly delicate. Whether the assassination attempt was real or exaggerated, the fact that it is being discussed openly among insiders is evidence of how unstable the Kremlin power pyramid has become. Instead of addressing the growing chaos, Putin reportedly focused on saving Shoigu, but this choice may backfire. It sends a signal that Putin is protecting a man widely seen as responsible for massive failures. Hardline nationalist groups, already furious at the direction of the war, see this as proof that Putin is disconnected from the realities on the ground. The military commanders who watched their troops suffer unnecessary losses see Shoigu as a symbol of incompetence and corruption. The elites losing wealth see him as an obstacle to any diplomatic pathway. In such conditions, a leader must pick a side. But Putin refuses to remove Shoigu, and that decision could divide the Kremlin further. The more he protects Shoigu, the more enemies both of them gain. When loyalty keeps a failing minister in power, factions start to wonder whether the leader himself has become the problem. As this perception grows, even Putin's security becomes uncertain. Some reports claim that his movements have become unpredictable and that he avoids staying in one residence for long. A leader of a stable nation does not behave like this. This is the behavior of a leader who fears betrayal from within. The idea of civil conflict inside the Kremlin may sound dramatic, but the signs are becoming undeniable. When powerful groups begin considering assassination against one of their own, it sets a precedent. If removing Shoigu by force becomes acceptable to some, then removing someone else might also become acceptable. That includes removing Putin. Russia has experienced internal coups before, some quiet and some violent. Today, the conditions resemble a state where factions are preparing for a possible power struggle. Everyone wants to position themselves for what might come next, and that creates even more tension. There is also the international dimension. Western intelligence agencies have been closely watching the cracks inside the Kremlin. Some analysts believe that sanctions are causing more internal pressure than the Kremlin expected. The economic collapse has weakened the oligarchs, and when their personal wealth is threatened, they often push back. These oligarchs once served as the financial backbone of Putin's system. If they begin to withdraw support, the entire power structure begins to wobble. Meanwhile, military failures are putting enormous stress on commanders, many of whom no longer believe the Kremlin leadership is capable of strategic success. As these pressures combine, the Kremlin becomes a battlefield of ambition and resentment. Shoigu's near-death incident, whether real or attempted, marks a turning point. It means that the invisible line of loyalty has been crossed. It means that someone inside the elite decided that eliminating a senior official was no longer unthinkable. And when these invisible rules break, the entire political system becomes unpredictable. Putin's reaction leaving the Kremlin shows that he knows how dangerous the situation has become. In a strong, united government, the leader stays at the center of power. When a leader feels vulnerable, he moves, and every movement signals weakness. His enemies will notice, his allies will question, his rivals will plan. This is how political systems collapse not from outside, but from within. As uncertainty grows, so does the risk of drastic actions. Some factions want to escalate the war to regain control and restore national pride. Others want to de-escalate and negotiate before the system collapses. Some want Shoigu removed. Others want an entirely new leadership. And in the background, security agencies analyze every move, waiting for the moment when they must choose whom to support. This crisis has the potential to reshape Russia in ways no one expected. The Kremlin is no longer operating with confidence. Fear, suspicion, and rivalry dominate every corner of the power structure. Putin may still control the state machinery, but controlling a machine that is breaking apart is difficult. When elites begin collapsing into factions, even the strongest leader cannot rely on loyalty alone. The most important question now is what happens next. Will Putin be able to reassert control by sacrificing Shoigu? Will Shoigu be forced out? Will rival factions clash? Or will the entire situation spiral into an internal conflict that tears apart the power structure? These questions matter not only for Russia, but for the entire geopolitical landscape, because when the Kremlin shakes, the world feels the impact. For now, the only certainty is that the crisis is far from over. The failed attempt on Shoigu's life, the movement of Putin out of the Kremlin, and the growing anger among the elites all point toward a dangerous and unpredictable future. The Kremlin is no longer a fortress of unity. It is a storm of ambition, betrayal, and fear, and the consequences are only beginning to unfold.